The heavy rain downpoured, as Grant and Muldoon bumped along the muddy track in the Ranger Jeep. The vehicle lurched and swayed, each jostle a reminder of the precariousness of their situation. Jurassic Park, a dream teetering on the edge of nightmare. Today's concern wasn't Velociraptors or Dilophosaurus, it was something new, something different. An Allosaurus. Grant, ever the paleontologist, was practically buzzing with anticipation. He adjusted his khaki hat, his eyes fixed on the dense foliage blurring past. So, Muldoon, tell me more about this Allosaurus. Hammond was surprisingly tight-lipped. Said it was a recent acquisition and best observed with caution. Muldoon, his face a weathered mask of grim experience, gripped the steering wheel tighter. The Jeep swerved around a particularly large pothole. Acquisition is one word for it. More like a bloody headache. We had to use a modified crane just to get the damn thing into the enclosure. It's bigger than your average Allosaurus fragilis, that's for sure. Closer to Atrox size, maybe even bigger. Close to 40 feet if I had to hazard a guess. Grant whistled, impressed. Impressive. That puts it in the same weight class as some of the younger tyrannosaurs. He leaned forward, his voice laced with academic curiosity. And temperament? Is it as aggressive as its reputation suggests? Muldoon snorted. Aggressive is putting it mildly, Alan. This isn't your docile Brachiosaurus, munching on leaves. This is a predator, pure and simple. It's restless. Jumpy. Doesn't seem to like its new home. And that's putting it lightly. The Jeep rounded a bend, and the trees thinned, revealing a high-voltage fence shimmering in the heat. Beyond it lay the Allosaurus enclosure, a vast expanse of jungle, dotted with rocky outcrops and a stagnant watering hole. Grant frowned. Restless? What do you mean? Is it injured? Muldoon's eyes narrowed, scanning the perimeter fence. No visible injuries. We've run diagnostics. Everything seems normal. Biologically, at least. But something's off. The keepers reported increased agitation over the past few days. Pacing. Roaring. Trying to breach the fence. Nothing that actually breaks through, mind you, the fences are built to withstand a T-Rex. He paused, a shadow passing over his face. But it's the behavior that worries me. Grant turned, his professional curiosity now tinged with unease. Behavior? What kind of behavior? Muldoon slowed the Jeep, pulling it to a halt a safe distance from the fence. He switched off the engine, the sudden silence amplifying the chirping of unseen insects and the distant calls of other dinosaurs. He gestured towards the dense foliage within the enclosure. The Allosaurus, it's been spending a lot of time near the western boundary. The one bordering the Tyrannosaurus paddock. Grant raised an eyebrow. Coincidence, surely? It's just exploring its new territory. Muldoon shook his head, his gaze fixed on the distant trees. Maybe. But I don't think so. I think it can sense something. A bigger predator. A threat. It's keyed up, on edge. Like a dog that knows something's coming, long before you hear the rumble of thunder. Grant considered this, his brow furrowed. You think it can sense the Tyrannosaurus? Muldoon nodded grimly. I've seen it before. Animals have an instinct for this kind of thing. They can feel the presence of a superior predator. Smell the danger in the air, even if they can't see it. And this Allosaurus, it's acting like it knows something is out there, something that could pose a threat to it. Grant shivered, despite the heat. The implications were unsettling. If the Allosaurus could sense the T-Rex, what else could it sense? And what would happen if the two apex predators ever came face to face? The carefully constructed ecosystem of Jurassic Park could be thrown into complete chaos. "So, what's the plan?" Grant asked, his voice tight. Muldoon reached for his tranquilizer rifle, checking the charge. "We observe. We assess. We try to understand what's causing this agitation. And we make damn sure that fence holds." He slammed the rifle butt against the dashboard, the sound echoing in the humid air. "Because if that Allosaurus breaches that fence and gets into the Tyrannosaurus paddock," he trailed off, leaving the unspoken catastrophe hanging heavy in the air. They sat in silence for a moment, the only sound the buzzing of insects and the distant rustling of leaves. Then, a low, guttural roar echoed from deep within the Allosaurus enclosure. It was a sound filled with frustration, anger, and something else, an undercurrent of fear. Grant instinctively reached for his binoculars, his eyes scanning the foliage. "There. I see it." The Allosaurus emerged from the trees, its massive frame casting a long shadow in the afternoon sun. It was even larger than Grant had imagined, a muscular behemoth, its powerful jaws lined with rows of serrated teeth. It paced back and forth along the fence line, its eyes fixed on the western boundary, its nostrils flaring as it tested the air. It shook its head and bellowed again, a challenging sound that seemed to vibrate through the very ground beneath their feet. Muldoon watched the Allosaurus, his face grim. "See that? It knows. It bloody well knows." He adjusted his rifle, his finger hovering over the trigger. "Let's hope that fence is strong enough to keep them both in their places." The Allosaurus stopped pacing, its head cocked to one side, as if listening to something far away. Then, it let out a deafening roar, a primal scream of defiance and fear. And as if in response, a deeper, more powerful roar echoed from the west. The ground trembled. Muldoon swore under his breath. "Oh, bloody hell." He looked at Grant, his eyes filled with a look of worried certainty. "She's heard it too, Alan. She knows it's there too. And now we're in for a world of trouble." The air crackled with tension, the jungle holding its breath as two apex predators prepared for a confrontation they might never even see. In the jeep, Grant and Muldoon braced themselves, knowing that the stability of Jurassic Park, and perhaps their very survival, hung precariously in the balance. The game wardens are about to find out if their fences, and their skills, are enough to contain the primal force of nature about to be unleashed.